Hi guys, so today I'll be showing you how to cut and sew this beautiful 3-step detachable peplum. It is very detailed, beginner friendly and very easy to understand. So if this looks like what you really wish to learn, please keep watching. And if this is your first time on the channel, please click on the subscribe button and also don't forget to like, share and drop a comment. These are the materials I'll be using for this tutorial. So here I have my Ankara print. I have this gum stay I'll be attaching to the peplum to give it more stability, and here is my hemming gum and the crinoline I'll be attaching to the peplum. So there are so many ways to go about this. You can decide to cut a full flare, that is a 360-degree flare, or a 720-degree flare. But for this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead to cut a 720-degree flare for this peplum I'm going to be making. So the first thing we are going to go ahead to do now is to define what a 720-degree flare is. So a full circle is also called a 360-degree flare. When you multiply this 360 by 2, you're going to be having 720 degree. So that is how we come about the 720-degree flare. The difference between these two flares is that the 720-degree flare is fuller than the 360-degree flare. So it depends on how full you want your peplum to be. The next thing we are going to go ahead to do now is to calculate the radius. When cutting a full flare, the formula for the radius is your waist divided by 6.28. This 6.28 you see here is constant. So when cutting a full flare, all you need to do to get your radius is to divide your waist by 6.28. But for a 720-degree flare, you are going to go ahead to cut out two 360-degree flare, and because you're cutting out two 360-degree flare, the first thing you're going to go ahead to do is to divide the waist by 2. So the waist I'm working with is 38 divided by 2 is 19. So I'll be using 19 as the waist measurement because I'll be cutting out two flare. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to calculate the waist radius, and in doing that I'll go ahead to divide this 19 by 6.28. After doing that, what I got was 3.02. So when cutting this flare now, I'll be using 3.02 as the waist radius, and also I'll be cutting out two full circle. But if you're cutting a full flare, all you need to do is to divide your actual waist measurement by 6.28, and whatever you get, you'll be using that as the waist radius when cutting out your flare. So for this tutorial, the flare length I'm going to be working with is 9 inch, but I'll be adding 1 inch for sewing allowance. So when you add this up, you're going to be having 10 inch. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to fold my fabric using this 10 inch plus this 3 inch I have here. So when you add these two together, you're going to be having 13 inch. So when folding my fabric, I'll be using this 13 inch to fold my fabric before cutting it out. So I'm going to go ahead to cut out the peplum on this brown paper you see here, after which I'll transfer it to my main fabric. So for this tutorial, I'll be cutting out 3 layered peplum. The first layer is going to be the actual 13 inch we calculated. That is, the first layer is going to be our flare length plus our radius, which is 13 inch. Then the second layer is going to be 3 inch lesser than the first layer. So I'll be using 10 inch for the second layer, while the last layer is going to be 7 inch. So the difference between each of the layers is going to be 3 inch. So now I'm going to go ahead to fold my fabric to cut out the first layer of the flare, which is 13 inch. So we are going to be assuming that this is your fabric. You can actually do this directly on your fabric, but because I'm cutting out 3-step peplum, I want to use the same paper to cut out the 3-layered peplum. So I'm going to go ahead to show you how to fold your fabric when cutting out a peplum. The first thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to take out this 13 inch I have here on this side of my paper. I'm going to go ahead to place my tape like so, and I'll mark the 13 inch. After marking it, I'll fold it into 2 like you see me doing in the video. So after folding it, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to confirm my measurement. So make sure what you have here is your radius plus your flare length. So after confirming the measurement, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to take out the same measurement on this folded part. So I'm going to go ahead to take out 13 inch on this part, then I'll go ahead to fold it over again like you see me doing in the video. So when you fold it over, this is what you're going to be having. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut out this excess paper I have here. Then I will show you how to fold it again. So the first thing you're going to go ahead to do is to measure the 13 inch on one side of your fabric. So you're going to go ahead to take a measurement like so. After doing that, you fold it over into 2. So after folding it, the next thing to do is to measure the same 13 inch on this folded part like so. Then you go ahead to fold it over again. So after folding your fabric or your paper, you're going to be having a perfect square. All the sides should be equal. once you are done folding it. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to start inserting the measurement. And when inserting the measurement, you'll be starting from this part, that is this folded part we have here. So when taking your measurement, you're going to be starting from this folded part. You're going to go ahead to place your tape rule at the tip like so. Then you go ahead to take out the 13-inch we calculated. So I'm going to go ahead to place my tape like so, and I will take out the 13-inch measurement. So I'm going to go ahead to take the measurement all the way around like you see me doing in the video. So once you're done marking the 13-inch measurement, the next you're going to go ahead to do now is to insert your radius. So mine is 3-inch. I'm going to go ahead to take out the measurement like you see me doing in the video. I'm going to go ahead to mark the 3-inch all around. Then I'll connect the points together like you see me doing in the video. After inserting the measurements, make sure what you have in between this place is your flare length plus your sewing allowance. So mine is 10-inch and here I have 10-inch. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut it out. So after cutting, this is what it is going to look like. So you're going to be having a full circle with no opening on any side. This is what you should have after you're done cutting out the peplum. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut out my fabric using this pattern I have here, and I'll be cutting out 2 pieces. So when cutting on your fabric, you'll be folding your fabric the same way you folded the paper. So I'm going to go ahead to repeat the same process on my fabric, and I'll be cutting out 2 full circles on my fabric because I'm cutting a 720-degree peplum. So I'm going ahead to cut out 2 full circles, and this is what I have. So this is the first one and here is the second one. The next thing we're going to go ahead to do now is to cut the second layer of the peplum. And in doing that, you're going to go ahead to minus 3-inch from this one we have here. So remember, the second one is going to be 10-inch. So I'm going to go ahead to place my tape rule starting from 3-inch because the 3-inch upward is for the radius. I'm already going ahead to cut out the radius. So I'll place my tape like this starting from 3-inch. Then I'll mark 10-inch all the way around, after which I'll go ahead to cut it out. So after cutting it out, this is what we have. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut out my fabric using this pattern here, and I'll be cutting out 2 pieces also for the second layer. So after I was done cutting out the second layer, this is what it is going to look like. Here I have 2 pieces of peplum for the second layer. The next thing we are going to go ahead to do now is to cut out the last layer, which is going to be 7-inch. And I'm going to go ahead to repeat the same process again. I'll place my tape like so, starting from 3-inch, then I'll go ahead to measure 7-inch all the way around, after which I'll cut it out. So after cutting, this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead to cut out the flare of my fabric, then I'll come back to show you what to do next. So here we have the peplum already cut out. So we have the 3 layers, the first, second and the third layer. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut out my lining using this peplum I have here. And after cutting out my lining, I'll go ahead to attach my Ankara fabric to this gum stay you see here. Once I'm done doing that, I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after cutting out my lining and placing my gum stain on it, this is what it is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to slash one side of the peplum open. So I'm going to go ahead to fold it into 2 like this. Then I'll go ahead to cut one side open like you see me doing in the video. I'll be repeating the same thing on the other flares and also on the other lining. So after cutting the flare open, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to join the 2 flares together. And in doing that, I'll go ahead to place it like this, making sure the good faces are facing each other. After which, I'll go over my sewing machine to close it up. And I'll be doing the same thing on the other flare and also on my lining. So after joining the two flates together, this is what we are going to be having. So this is what you should have once you're done joining the flates together. The next you are going to go ahead to do now is to attach the lining to the Ankara fabric, and in doing that I'm going to go ahead to place my lining on my fabric like so, making sure that the good face of the lining is facing the good face of my fabric. Once I'm done doing that, I'll be placing the crinoline on it, then I'll go over my sewing machine to sew the three of them together. So to make this easier, I will advise you to secure them with your pin first before you go ahead to stitch it. So I'll go over my sewing machine to quickly do that, then I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after sewing my lining and the crinoline to my fabric, this is what it is going to look like. I also went ahead to notch it and I turned it to the good face and gave it a good press. So if you don't know how to attach a crinoline to your peplum, I'm going to be dropping a detailed tutorial on how to do that in the next video. So this is what you're going to be having once you're done doing that. So I also went ahead to repeat the same thing on the second layer and also on the first layer of the peplum that we'll be cutting. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to close up the sides. But before doing that, I'm going to go ahead to place the three peplums together to make sure that they are all aligning. So I'm going to go ahead to place it like so, starting from the midpoint. Then I'll go ahead to trim any excess I have on the edge like you see me doing in the video. So all you need to do is to place the three of them together, making sure that the midpoints are aligning. Then you go ahead to arrange it down to the edge. So if you have any excess there, all you need to do is to trim it out so that you have equal edges on the side. So once I'm done doing that, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to close up the sides of the peplum. And in doing that, I'm going to go ahead to turn it over like so. After turning it over like this, I'm going to go ahead to run a stitch. Once I'm done doing that, I'll also go ahead to close the waist area. I'll be repeating the same thing for the other flares also. So after I was done closing up the side and the waist area, this is what we are going to be having. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to join the three peplums together. So I'm going to go ahead to place the second layer on it, after which I'll go ahead to place the last layer on it, making sure that the midpoints are meeting. So once I'm done doing this, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to go over my sewing machine to join the three of them together. So I'm going to go ahead to quickly do that. Once I'm done doing that, I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after I was done sewing the three peplums together, this is what I have. So this is what you should have once you're done joining yours together. This is what it looks like once I was done doing that. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach the band to the peplum. And in doing that, I've gone ahead to cut out this waistband you see here. The length of the waistband should be at least ×2 of your waist circumference measurement, and also the height is as desired. So the height of this waistband I have here is 1.5 inch on fold. So what I did was to cut out 4 inch. After cutting out 4 inch, I went ahead to attach my gum tape to it. So once I was done doing that, I folded in 0.5 inch on both sides. Then I folded it into 2. So once you measure this, you're going to be having 1.5 inch. So if you want the height of your waistband to be more than this, you can go ahead to cut 2 inch or 3 inch depending on the height you want. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach it to the peplum. And in doing that, the first thing I'll go ahead to do is to locate the midpoint of the waistband. So I'm going to go ahead to fold it into 2 like you see me doing in the video. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to place this mid part of the waistband on the midpoint of the peplum also, and I'll be starting my stitch from the wrong side of the peplum. So once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to stitch the peplum to the waistband from the center to the side, and I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Once I'm done doing that, I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after I was done joining the waistband to the peplum, this is what we are going to be having. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to notch it so that it will be easier for me to fold over the other part of the waistband on it. So I'm going to go ahead to notch it like you see me doing in the video. So when notching it, be careful so you don't cut through your seams. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to close up the waistband. So I'll turn it over like so, push in my allowance on the peplum, then I'll go ahead to run a stitch. But before doing that, I'll be closing up this part, and in doing that, I'll turn it over like so, then I'll go ahead to close it up, after which I'll turn it back to the good face. So I've done that on this side, and this is what it is going to look like once you have that part closed. It's going to help give you a neat finishing on that part. So once you have that part closed, the next thing you're going to go ahead to do is to start closing up the waistband from that part. So I'm going to go over my sewing machine and I will stitch from the waistband area down to the peplum. So once sewing it, make sure you sew close to the edge of the waistband. So I'm going to go ahead to quickly do that now, then I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after I was done joining the waistband to the peplum, this is what it looks like. So while sewing, it was a little bit difficult because I was trying to place a straight waistband on a curved waist. So to make it easier for me, what I did was to give it a good press with my pressing iron. After doing that, I went ahead to attach my hemming gum to it to keep it in place. Then it was easier to run a stitch on it. So if you're finding it difficult, all you need to do is to give it a good press to keep it in place. You place your hemming gum inside and it will be easier for you to sew. So this is what the detachable peplum is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to try it on for you to see what it looks like. So here we have the final look of the peplum, looking so beautiful and very nice. So if this video was helpful to you, please don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to, and also don't forget to drop a like and a comment. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.